you were more attuned to magic. I would rather just sit and read books, and they're like, you're never gonna get an animal this way. And I'm like, screw you, I'm gonna build my own animal.
It's gonna be cooler than yours.
Hello, and welcome to the Tabletop Travel Guide, the podcast where we realize that we've been sitting on the couch all day and needed to do something.
So instead, we decided to go to our basement and explore fictional worlds right from the comfort of our own table.
Yes, we wanted to explore, but it's slightly chilly outside, so we decided to do our own thing. I'm Tyler, and yeah, this week we played board games because we were going to do an epilogue for a character, but she was sick.
Yes, the person playing the character was sick. Not the character itself.
Yes, true.
Themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, she was like, I can do it virtually, and you're like, no, you got to, this is your character's send-off.
Not for your own epilogue.
Yeah.
And I'm Sam, and I played said board games. And that was the only real thing that we did that was tabletop-y this week.
Yeah.
And then Ryan is not here at our house right now. He just got back from a trip. So
to Arizona.
We're going to let him rest and recuperate because we're such nice friends.
Right? We are so kind. We're keeping him from his fun hobby to take care of, hang out with his family. So yeah, we wanted to do this episode to kind of show you guys a little bit what it's like for some of the audio on our Patreon.
Yeah, so our Patreon content tends to go a little bit more freeform. We pull out more personal stories about our role playing. It's all still based in Pathfinder for the most part, unless we, randomly dip into some of the other platforms we've tried. But just to kind of bring everybody in a little bit, and then since we didn't have Ryan, we didn't want to do anything too crazy without him.
We didn't want to have him be on vacation from the lore guides.
Yes, that'd be sad.
Yeah. So today, Sam and I are going to talk a little bit about how we build characters. From a obviously mechanical standpoint, kind of where we start, how we go, because I think each of us have pretty different views in how we build characters,
or at least different starting points.
Yeah.
And then things that we look for. And obviously our characters are really important to our games. You have to have them to play. And we've talked a little bit about some of the ones that we've created in the past. So we thought we'd kind of walk you guys through how we approach character creation and what things we think about. And then we might build a little bit while we're sitting here too, because we don't have enough characters to play. Might as well come up with more.
Great segue. So I was thinking, my first question is, how many characters do you think you have built?
Oh God. Since we first started playing.
Yeah, since we first started playing.
Okay, so it's been 10 years.
Yep.
So I'd probably say whether or not we used them for a lot of things. Oh, clarifying question. Characters that I have played for campaigns, or does this also include NPCs that I have built for campaigns?
I would say characters you have played for campaigns, even if you built a character, played one session, and player characters only, not NPCs.
So then I think probably 20?
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking there's probably going to be some one-offs in there. So there's definitely a few that got built and not really used, especially at the beginning. And then there's been some characters that have lasted a long time.
Yeah.
So probably fewer than 10 that I would say I played for a decent amount of time. But then just other ones where we'd randomly do oh, hey, here's our Pathfinder Society character for this. Or somebody wanted to play test this and we needed a character.
Yeah. That's fair. I feel obviously of the characters that I've played, for longer than 2 sessions is shorter. I'd have to say, I'm like trying to think of my Mythweavers.
Well, I'm like
account.
about to pull up my app and just not Mythweavers,
through.
but like of the
Path Builder apps
on the
you
Path
had.
Builder. How many do I have on here?
It's about to pull my phone out, but can't. Yeah, I had to have been about maybe 30 or 40. I don't know. I mean, there were some in there. I remember like building characters for an epic, like building characters for a month for an epic campaign that we did 1 session of, and like, yeah, all kinds of different stuff.
All right, so I have, let's see. I think there's like 12 on here just from Path Builder.
Yeah. That doesn't include Mythweavers that we used to use. So yeah, 20 is probably close to you.
Yeah. And some of these were used like the problem is I was trying to figure out which ones were ones that I just built for this podcast.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. We obviously have built several for the podcast.
Yeah, so I was trying to pull those out. So I might be overcounting by just a couple on ones that like I'm like, oh, I remember that one, but then I only ever talked about them here.
That's fair. This counts. Sure. Yeah. So I don't know. Where do you want to start?
Well, so let's start with what's the first thing that you pick when you build a character?
Well, that's a good question. My first thing, as of late, has generally been class. At this point, I really want to do the Pokemon stage of like gotta catch them all and try to play one of every class. Unfortunately, we don't play enough campaigns because I feel like they keep coming out with more classes before I can play them. So yeah, my first thing is what class I want to build.
I also start class first.
Yeah.
Mostly, and that's probably been more recently. Like, I think when I very first started, it was like, what's the story? And then I'll figure out all the mechanics. Yeah. But I would say once I understood like the gameplay part better, then I shifted to class first. And I think as a group, whenever we do campaigns, we do all talk class first.
Yeah.
Just because it's like we don't want 5 bards to all show up.
Or
unless we are playing that one specific campaign where we have to be in a band.
Yes.
But we usually talk as a group, just general classes first so that people aren't doubling up or we don't have a weird composition.
Yeah. And we've even done like, just standard not just archetypes or like make sure we have a support. Is somebody doing frontline, backline, like
so maybe it's not necessarily picking the exact class, but at least like the party role. And I think that helps me figure out the other things too, but I like to at least know is my character a spellcaster? Are they a melee person? Are they whatever? Because I think if you go support, right, like then it's like, okay, am I a cleric or not?
Yeah.
And if you pick cleric like that, then it pushes the trajectory of then how I'm going to build the character a lot different than if I'm like, I'm going to go support, but I'm going to do it as a witch instead.
Right. Yeah. Like, do you want to do healing? Do you want to do buffing, debuffing, whatnot? It is funny thinking, I feel like all of our groups, I mean, our the group with Ryan and Charles and them, we've all been pretty good and have been playing long enough to do player comp, but it's been funny to see. I'm thinking of we're about to finish up Fist of the Ruby Phoenix, which was first Age of Ashes, but was almost everybody at that table except for you's first campaign, and like most of the characters are the same, or at least like early enough that people hadn't learned about team comp. So I was still thinking when you've been hitting the final bosses and you have one healer, and it's like. In Pathfinder, when you're like, oh, anybody can take battle medicine. So it's like usually you have like one healer and then a few people who are serviceable.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just...
we got nothing.
It's like, Serval, if I get to you, can you heal me? And he's like, yeah.
It's like, sorry, buddy.
He's like, I want to cast this cool spell, but I got to heal all you guys.
Yeah, that's the hard part too, which is why I think it's good to think about the whole party when you're thinking about character creation. So that way you don't end up like pushing one person into a corner of having to do certain things every time.
Yeah. So we have our classes. You picked your class, you picked your team comp. What do you go for next?
So that's where I start story.
Okay.
Because then story helps me then figure out what I want to build into flavor. So
Do you think of, so like let's say, we take Litzy, your Laughing Shadow Magus.
Mhm.
So you wanted to play a Magus. Did you
Mhm.
look at the mechanics first, or did you think, okay, I know Magus is like a spell sword. I'm gonna build the story first and then look into stuff?
I'm trying to think what I picked first. So obviously I picked Magus because I knew I wanted to do like melee and magic.
Yeah.
And then I think I read the different types of Magus.
Mhm.
And I think I picked Laughing Shadow first, and then I built everything out from there.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I was like, I liked the idea of like the roguey type or, being sneaky, but then differently because I do think I went into that I was not gonna make a moody, sarcastic character because I'd gotten into like that rut. So I think I had the idea that her personality was gonna be bright, and then I liked the juxtaposition of like, this is a character that like pops out of the shadows to stab people, but is just really delighted about it, or is just like a very bubbly character. So I kind of liked the play on that. And that's I think where I started with her build was, this is a sneaky person, but a sneaky person that actually really loves people and is like really just excited to do things with other people.
Yeah.
Which is not, I guess, like a stereotypical roguish presentation. So
yeah. I think I like to I kind of start the same way with, I have my class, I kind of figure out what subclass I get, and then honestly I probably go a little bit more into mechanics before before I go story. Most of the time I just kind of like, so I'm thinking of,
well, so talk to me about your character for Ryan's campaign, part 2.
Okay.
How did you build him?
How did I build Othniel? So,
because I loved that character and I loved the build that you created for him, but I don't know that I actually asked you like where you started for that.
So let me think. Othniel. Okay, actually, this is a good example because this is kind of where my desire for mechanics and story kind of come out. So Othniel was my like 1,000-year-old elf who, for Ryan's story purposes, he lived an entire, like, we were in the fighting against Harbathon, and my elf Othniel was in the Shining Crusade, the original one,
the OG
one. So my thought there was, oh, it'd be cool. So actually, how I built this character was, I wanted to be a bard because I had not played a bard yet.
So we did class first,
and then I'm like, I kind of want to be a melee bard. So I think I ended up doing warrior bard, and I'm like, okay, that'd be cool. But bards only have light armor proficiency, I think. They might have medium. I think they have light. So I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to be a frontliner, so I want to be a warrior bard, I want heavier armor. So at this point, Ryan, I believe, I don't know. I don't think we were doing free archetype then, but I'm like, what are ways to get heavy armor proficiency? And so I saw that there was a heritage of elf that's ancient elf. And so what that lets you do is that says you have lived so long that you get to choose a class, like a class, multi-class archetype at level 1, and then that kind of represents your old life. So I was like, oh, cool, I could do champion, get heavy armor proficiency. And then I'm like, okay, well then how do I figure out this story?
Gosh, don't we all love a dip into champion?
Yeah, right? So great. Just free heavy armor proficiency. So yeah, that one was like, I think, I was just looking around and I'm like, ooh, Ancient Elf could get me what I want. I'm like, how would I play that? I'm like, ooh, that would actually be cool if I was, and then I started looking up in the lore of, okay, when was the first Shining Crusade? That was 800 years ago. That might be a little old for elves. Ryan, are you care if I play a 900-year-old elf? And he's like,
real ancient.
Yeah. He's like, sure, that's fine. So yeah, I feel like I look at different cool class features or mechanics and I'm like, ooh, how would that fit into my story?
Yeah. That's a good one. I liked how you built him. Was there anything about his build that you put in there strictly for mechanic and like couldn't explain by story?
I think I might have. Trying to think. I mean, spell choices as a bard.
Yeah.
I feel like I never flavor my spell choice of like, how do you know grim tendrils or whatever?
Don't worry about
It's
it.
like, don't think about it.
Well, I feel like also everything you could explain for I've been around a long time.
Yeah. I could be your great-great-grandfather.
I did like within that campaign, Ryan gave us some fun like flavor opportunities. So every time we went to a new city, he gave us the option of being able to use I know a guy.
Yeah.
And so obviously Tyler's 800-year-old elf like
Just knew.
had the best like option for that because it could be like, yeah, I was here 500 years ago, or I have a random relation
Yeah.
in this city.
So yeah. That was funny. If you ever, as a GM, want to give your players ways to, in universe, help them when they are lost. Yeah, Ryan gave us hey, I know a guy that can help me with this thing, and then you just kind of made up a character, and it was great.
It was fun.
Yeah. So okay, so you had your class, your subclass.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about your Ryan Part 3.
Oh, so that was story first.
Okay. What was her name? Asenia?
There's been too many. Is that the one?
I think that was. I think
I also
because it was Armin and Asenia.
I think you're right.
I think you also missed
Asenia.
about.
Well, so the problem is also I name a lot of characters A names, I have realized. Like I use a lot of A's, I use a lot of T's. I'm not sure why I like those letters, but I do. So then sometimes I get them confused. But yes, that was Asenia. No, so we started story first for that one because you and I had decided together that we were going to be survivors of Last Wall.
Yeah.
And so then I built the character from the idea of being a survivor. And I think we had talked party comp though, so I knew I was going to go support.
Yeah.
So I did choose cleric for that one, but then like building off of like the idea of being a survivor, I went hallowed necromancer with it. And honestly, it was because of like one or two spells that I looked at and I was like, oh, this would make sense when I think about like if my character is a survivor and she's linked to Tyler's character, what would she have done to save your character's life?
Oh, yeah.
So that was pretty much the primary drive for everything I chose for her and her build. So our characters were married in that campaign. And so I really built her just off of the base idea. What would she do to keep Tyler's character alive?
Yeah.
Which actually made a really cool build because then a lot of my spell choices, like, you know, I had like the lifelink spell or whatever. I had like status. So like I could tell like, is he alive? We could share hit points. I had things like sanctuary and stuff like that. And like healing spells too. And obviously like we got up to level 20 for that.
Yeah.
So there was combat spells in there too. But like a lot of her feats and things were really based on the idea of if I am a combatant going into war, what do I need to make sure the people around me stay alive?
Yeah.
So the story for that really drove every mechanical choice I made.
Nice. Yeah. Is there, I'm trying to think, how would you say you evolved your character building over the course of your
my
tabletop rollerblading, tabletop role playing?
I definitely care more about mechanics.
Yeah.
So when I first started playing and Tyler was like, you should play D&D with us. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Like what roped me in was the idea of like essentially the acting and the improv part of it because I enjoy that. So for me, it was like, oh, okay, I can tell a story.
Yeah.
And I didn't really care about the mechanics, mostly because I didn't understand them. 3.5 was a hard place to start too.
Yeah.
So that, I think that didn't help. So, and once we switched to Pathfinder, the mechanics were easier. And I think I had done it enough times at that point that I understood where the mechanics were important and why like you needed that too. And I think as a like role play group, our campaigns had evolved past like just like combat's the
Dungeon
best.
Growth.
We just want to beat things up. So the balance got better for me. Like, I appreciated why the mechanics were important and I enjoyed more of like the combat stuff, and then was able to then work the storytelling part more into the mechanics rather than it just being like, if you're a rogue, you get to roll 3 extra dice if you're doing this. And I was like, okay, but why does this matter to my character?
Yeah.
But when I embraced the mechanics, then it was, more of like, why is this mechanic important to my character? Or why do they want this feat? And then, you tie it in together and then it becomes more meaningful and more fun to play with.
Yeah. Well, and I think also, 3.5, like you said, because we, obviously, if you've listened to us, we started on 3.5. That was a like min-maxer's paradise. So Sam, who did not care about mechanics, would be like, I'm doing my normal set amount of damage.
Why is everyone murdering things and I am doing 10 damage?
And so we would just stack on classes. But I also do think, Paizo has done a great job of adding flavor into their mechanics. It's I don't know. I think one of my favorite feat lines is the goblin line, where it's burn it. And it's like, mechanically, you can use fire spells and get extra damage, but flavorfully, it's burn it. And also, you, as a goblin, really like fire. Or like, very sneaky goblin. Like, you get stealth mechanics, but like, that's really easy to just put into like, well, obviously I'm very sneaky, or very, very sneaky.
Well, and you think about like the, like even some of the class builds. So like Oracle, which like the whole idea is like you get a benefit, but you then have a curse too. So it's all of those mechanics, but they're all based in a very specific story that you're using as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so I think what we should do now, because this sounds fun to me, is I think that you and I should each like start a creation and just see where we go. Okay. I personally want to play around with a summoner class because I've never done one. Yeah. And since I've never done one, I don't really know what I'm doing. So I think it'll be a more authentic view of how I might actually get into it. So is there a class that you have not built, Tyler?
Let me see. Where? Yeah, is there a class? I mean, there probably is. I
have Archives of Nethys up, so...
I'm like, I could say Kineticist, but I do not want to learn Kineticist right now.
Well, so there's like uncommon ones too. Like, I don't know that you've ever done an Inventor.
Yeah.
Or...
An Inventor would be kind of cool.
An Investigator. I don't know that you've done one of those.
Yeah, Investigators are a little funky, but...
Yeah. Have you done a Swashbuckler? I know I have. I don't know that you have.
I don't think so. Let's start with the Summoner, and then I'll think about what I want to do.
Okay. I like it.
Okay. So, let's do a Summoner.
Woo! Okay. So the first thing that I do is I pull up the Archives of Nethys page and figure out what the heck a summoner is. Obviously, I know generally, but I like to start with like, what are my like general parameters?
What do you say you do here?
Right. So I do look at like what the key attribute is.
Yeah.
So for summoner, it's charisma. So I keep that in my brain. Like, okay. Charisma is something that we're going to want to think about. That's going to play into what my character is. And then, okay, so we have, I'm the summoner, but then I'm going to have an Eidolon. So when I'm thinking about characterization, technically it's building two things. Yeah. And how they relate to each other. So I do kind of like that. That's a fun mechanic to think about. And then I look and see if it's something that like has a pathway. So like sorcerer bloodlines, things like that. So I look and see, do I need to pick something for that? And I guess that's going to be my initial question, not having built a summoner.
Yeah, so I think summoners are all about their Eidolons. So you pick what type of Eidolon you want.
You pick the type of Eidolon. Okay. Oh, okay. All right. So let's talk about like, we'll just run through the types of Eidolons we can choose here. Okay. So we can choose an angel, which is a angel. Duh. Okay. Anger Phantom.
I like it.
Woohoo. Okay. We can choose a beast. That seems normal. We can choose a construct. We can choose a demon. A devotion phantom.
So where the anger phantom is, I'm very angry with you and so I'm going to stick around.
Oh, this is kind of sad. The devotion phantom, your Eidolon is a lost soul, unable to escape the mortal world due to a strong sense of duty or undying devotion.
Oh,
dang, this is like the ghost of your grandma. Whew, okay.
My grandma Eidolon, go attack! Ooh, that's weird. I know, because you can like merge into one with your Eidolon and stuff.
Okay, so I don't think we want to go that direction.
I don't think we want Granny Eidolon up in
I'm
here.
not vibing, although I do love the idea of like your phantom grandma Eidolon just like going after somebody with some knitting needles.
I like it.
We're not picking that one. Okay, then you can go dragon.
Nice.
Naturally.
Obviously.
You can go elemental. You can go fae. You can go plant. You can go psychopomp. You can go undead.
There you go.
Okay, so let's see. I am going to make this easy on myself, and I think I'm going to just choose a beast Eidolon.
Okay.
Because that seems a little bit easier for me to conceptualize on the fly anyway. All right, so if we choose Beast Eidolon, your Eidolon is a manifestation of the life force of nature in the form of a powerful magical beast that often has animal features, possibly even several from different species. Okay. You might have learned the way to connect with the world's life force via specific philosophy or practice, such as the beliefs of the God Callers, or formed a bond on your own. Okay, cool. So I'm thinking then where I'd go from here is, okay, I have a summoner, I have a character, they have a beast Eidolon, and I like the idea then of finding a society somewhere on Golarion that like reveres life and beasts. I kind of like the idea of like making a play on like this is a child that grew up thinking they were supposed to get a familiar but got like but summoned
or
something
like,
instead. Like
you know what'd be kind of cool though? Like so you have a beast Eidolon, you could do something almost like Realm of the Mammoth Lords, where it's like they command the animals there. So not even just familiar, but like an animal, because I think Eidolons look more like animal companions.
Oh yeah, no, like
Yeah,
I want to
but-
like flip it. Like this is like a child that grew up in a house full
Yeah.
of druids.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
had like familiars, and it's
Yeah.
like, cool, I'm gonna get one of those. And then somehow you connected a little too hard to the life force, and then it's like, oh, that's not what we were going
That's
for.
bigger than expected.
Right.
Did
Like,
not
and then
expect-
you summon like a
Yeah.
large beastie creature instead, and it's like, oh, that's not a fox.
Ooh,
Okay.
your familiar just looks really big. Like
Like, what were you going for there?
weird.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like, so yeah, it could be something like out of the realm of the Mammoth Lords, or even the like the Lenorm Kings too.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of, different societies that are going to revere some sort of creature, be some sort of like creatures are important
Yeah.
that would then drive that like initial desire
yeah.
for for some sort of connection to a creature. Yeah, so I think that's where I would start my build.
Okay.
And then from there, then I would do the research and look into like each one of those areas and determine like, does this area and their culture make sense then for kind of the partial story that I have in my brain?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I like that. So let me do, I think I want to pop up an inventor. So inventors, guns and gears, love it. They are built around the innovation. So they kind of have their like life's work is something they continually tinker with.
Mm-hmm.
So let me see what we got. We have armor innovation. You can do cutting edge suit of medium armor. Build that out. You do construct innovation, so you can have like an animal construct companion.
Okay.
So
Oh no.
no, that'd be funny. We're siblings, and
I found my animal and you're over here like, I guess I'll build one.
you Like, how would that have gone wrong? I mean, that's
Would
kind of
it have gone wrong? That's the
I
best question.
I do like that'd be kind of funny. And no, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I think that would be a funny concept of like, okay, so we're in a family of druids. No, I honestly it would almost be funny if like it was all natural animal companions like rangers.
Okay,
So like
yeah.
you had an entire
Like the family is all rangers and they're out here with their like wolves and
they
stuff
have
in
their
the
wolves, they have their
woods.
bears, they have whatever, and we're like we're like siblings that
What
are,
happened?
yeah. So you're more attuned to magic. I would rather just sit and read books, and they're like, you're never gonna get an animal this way. And I'm like,
Like-
screw you, I'm gonna build my own animal.
It's gonna be cooler than yours. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think
Do we get kicked out of our tribe? Is that why we're adventurers now? Or did we get too weird for our home?
I like the idea of either we
Or-
get kicked out or like
Our home is being threatened, and for some reason they're like, "You guys are weird. Go to the city. Go figure it out.
please go hey, help us.
Go find help."
I mean, this would also be kind of like a fun NPC, like an NPC twin character where like, yeah, the party goes to a village that's full of rangers and it's like, you need to go talk to the twins. They're weird. You see them, you're like, they have two companions, but they're not the companions you're used to. Yeah. I've honestly never been one for like too many animal companions or just like, I don't know, having another character throws. I'm just like, that's too much to think about.
Yeah, I don't mind. Like, I think I've done more stuff with familiars. Like, I've built a witch with a familiar before. I've had a druid. So those I think are a little bit more manageable because it's like either I'm using them as like I'm casting a spell through it, or they have like just a handful of abilities. I do think it's a little bit harder to do the classes where it's like full on combat with like multiple things, which is probably why I have not built a summoner before.
Summoners are I mean, Chad's summoner was fun but complicated.
Yeah, which is probably why I haven't done it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it would probably be a fun challenge
Yeah.
to like figure out how to incorporate it. I don't think it would be too bad now. I think after having like GM'd stuff where then you're controlling multiple things on a battlefield anyway, you learn a little bit
Yeah.
more about it. I think it would be one of those things where I'd have to make my note cards. So when I have characters that have complicated combat, I make myself note cards. So like for my Magus, I had to do that once we got a high enough level.
Yeah.
Because it was like, okay, I have a plan. I need to do this, and then I need to do this, and then I need to do this, and I need to know how all those numbers stack really quickly. So I would build myself little note cards that would just have, okay, for this attack sequence, this is what we're doing, and this is the damage stuff. So I'd probably just end up having to make myself like cheat sheets in the same way so that I didn't slow down combat.
Nice. Yeah. So I think, I always like having connections with another player in terms of characters in some form, just because it's like, I think in your campaign, I was the like little brother of Keisha's character. And like, it's
easier than having like, why are these 5 random people meeting in a bar and all agreeing to work together?
Yeah.
If there's some existing connection already, then you only have to build out the connection for a couple of people rather than for everyone, which can make it easier to jump into why are we working together.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an issue that as many other people have in their campaigns, but I feel like sometimes we build out characters that have like specific motivations for themselves, and then sometimes it gets really difficult to think about like why are they working together?
You do here. Yeah. So I think I would go for the construct innovation if we were paired together. If not, I still kind of like the idea of the inventor, like having a character that's somehow, so like the weapon innovation is one you basically just like upgrade a weapon to suit your needs. I think it would be cool to be like the second son of a noble family that doesn't get the like family sword and just has to like build it himself.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. So like something where it's like, I like the idea from an adventure of just, I don't either have the magical talent or like the privilege or the standing to get the thing, so I'm just gonna spend time doing it myself, and then you can explode things, and that's kind of funny.
So how much do you think that the campaign itself plays into the character that you build?
Class standpoint, unless it's specific, like probably not much. And yeah, unless the goal is like you guys are, fighting a ton of undead,
or you're in a band,
or you're in a band, or I'm not doing magic. Like, unless there's restrictions there, how I decide my class doesn't really affect how I choose my story. Definitely does, because I've found the characters that I've had the most fun with are the ones that were closely tied to the GM's plan for the campaign.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't want to. Sorry, Chad, I'm calling you out. No, I
don't listen, Chad.
Don't listen, Chad. No, I think of his second character in Ryan's campaign as part 2 character Akihiro, who was the summoner.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Like, I liked his character, but his story was in Tian Sha.
It was very confusing.
So it was kind of funny, and he pulled it in there, and like there was some cool connections there. So like it worked, but it was just kind of funny.
Ryan had to work to make it work.
Yeah,
though.
It was like, oh, my character is from another continent and has like his own story over there, and it's like, well, okay, how do you fit that in? So yeah, I usually try to, if it's not an adventure path, I try to get an idea of like what I like to work with the GM on, like what would make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I've done that too as the GM. Like when I've presented the campaign, like I know this also happened with Andy too, where he built a character and was like, they're from Tian Sha. And I was like, cool. How did they get here? Or like, why are they now in Taldor, which I think is where that campaign started.
No, that was for, yeah. In Andy's defense, he was like, I want to be a kitsune. Cool, kitsune are normally, and he did his research. He's like,
it's true.
From the spirit forest. I'm from the spirit forest, and we're like, that's in Tian Sha. He's like, I don't get it. It's like, that's another kind of way. He's like, well, too bad. I'm from the spirit. He's like, I did my research.
We made it work. It was fine.
Fine.
We gave him a backstory that got him there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like to know. For me, I think the location of the campaign is the important part that I like to be aware of. Like, what country are we starting in? And then, because that plays in, right? If it's a country that's like hostile to outsiders, okay, so am I playing an outsider in this country, or do I need to make sure that my build reflects that like I'm native to this country, and then are there any like restrictions on what would be my background and things like that? So for me, it's the location part of the campaign. And then like you said, if there's something specific about it, like we've been told before, we're going to do a lot of undead stuff. Okay, cool. Let me make sure that I consider that in my build.
Yeah, either that or like, don't be somebody, like, you can't be cool with necromancy.
Right.
Like, this is not going to work if your character is cool with like undead stuff.
Yeah, so those I think are good restrictions. But for me, I think when it's considering what do I need to know about the campaign, it's the where is the campaign taking place?
Yeah.
And that's usually an important part of what I will consider in my build, mostly because like it's the how you got there, right? So like we're talking about like our twins here, like if they're from the realm of the Mammoth Lords, but then Ryan is like, cool, my campaign is
in
gonna
Arcadia.
Be in, like, how did we get here?
Yeah.
I don't know. We tripped and fell in a portal, Ryan. Figure it out.
Just look around. What do you mean? I've always been here. It's fine. Yeah. How do you like? Do you put a lot of consideration into? I know you talk about party comp. Do you tend to try to pick your character first and then have everyone build around you, or do you try to build to other people's strengths?
It really depends on the group of people.
Yeah.
So, like, there have been campaigns where I've picked mine last, because usually it's the one where, like, it's more people are new and I'm the most experienced player. I'll pick last because I want to consider party comp.
Yeah.
So I think that's because nobody ever picks healers and like you have to have one. So I think sometimes like I'll end up like I'll take support. That's fine because no one else picked one and we need one.
Yeah.
If it's a party that's more experienced where I feel like people do a little bit more fluid character build anyway. So like I would say our group from college, I don't worry as much about what everybody else is doing because I think that like everyone balances.
Yeah. We all just kind of naturally balance off each other without thinking too much about specific classes.
Yeah.
So.
I do try to be cognizant of not playing the same character every time or like the same type. I'll call Tyler out for a hot second. Tyler party faces a lot.
Yeah. No, this is my natural, like, Tyler is a party face.
That's true.
I am too much of an extrovert to not be a party face, and it kills me every time. I'm like, move, let me do it.
So like I think sometimes we fall into that. So like if I notice that I have taken on the same role too many times in the same group of people, I do try to think about not doing that.
Yeah.
Because I also do not have a problem party facing if need be, but I try to give other people like opportunities to do different things too. I don't want to like, so this is where when I realized I was playing a lot of like snarky, sarcastic women, I was like, okay, this is a good default, but I need to do a different personality and I need to think about those. And I've purposefully like built characters that are less charismatic on purpose.
Yeah.
Just because I'm like, I want to give other people the opportunity to flex that muscle too. So that I'll think about like when we think about parties and what everybody's doing. And I think that's like a good like learning curve for people that are new. I don't want to like always be the person that's like leading everybody through the adventure. I want them to like figure it out too. So it depends on the group.
Yes.
I guess is the short answer to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I usually have some, like, I might have, like, one or two in mind, and then I like to play off other people, see what they do, and then, I might have, like, a close range, far range thought, and then people, and then depending on what everybody else does, I'm like, I'll pick that one or this one.
And sometimes you, like, build off of other people, too, which is fun. Like, I think most often our campaigns, multiple people have connections within the party at this point because it's more fun to build in conjunction with someone rather than just having your character be like a standalone. So I mean, you and I have obviously built our characters in conjunction multiple times.
Yep.
It probably helps that we live in the same house and talk about our characters and go, this would be cool. No, this would be cool.
Fun. Yeah. Yeah.
But like you've obviously like built in conjunction with Keisha, you built in conjunction with Charles, like you've had like different connections with people. So that's like just a fun way to build too.
Yeah. Well, then it helps, you can bounce ideas off each other of like both classes and types and whatnot. So cool. Well, anything else from a character perspective?
I don't know. This just makes me want to build more things. This is the problem.
I know.
I really like the character building part. I like creating the stories and I like creating the people, but then it's like there's not enough campaigns or not enough time for all of the campaigns.
Yes.
But this is why like when Ryan did a big 3-part campaign, we all picked different characters every time because there's just so many cool stories to tell.
Yeah. To the people who can play a character for many years, like I respect the hell out of that. I cannot do that. I like my characters, but I also like epiloguing my characters. Just like they completed their quest. They're moving on.
We don't like necessarily kill off our characters, but we do give them like endings and like stories that can continue. So if we wanted to revisit them for something, we could.
I'm a big fan of the cameo character.
Yes, that's fun.
The character is Sunset, but you might pop by and see one in a future campaign and just like, oh, there's that old elf guy who's just like giving a caramel to a kid on the street. And it's like, hey, it's Othniel.
I did love that about Ryan's campaign that we had the 3 parts, but then each of those characters showed up in various ways throughout the 3 parts. They weren't just like left behind, which was cool.
Yeah. So this is kind of like we said at the top of the episode, this is kind of similar to what we talk about in our Patreon. So if you want to go support us, it's Tabletop Travel Guide Podcast. The link in our show notes, you can also search. We also have a Discord.
This is probably a little bit more structured than what our typical Patreon content is, but the bottom line is it's usually more about our particular characters or experiences or...
So I guess the gamut of things we tend to talk about on our Patreon are, we have, what I call cutting room floor, which is stuff that, sometimes we'll just chat before we record about our weeks or whatever, and that's just very random. Or sometimes the story in the middle of a episode won't exactly fit, or I need to cut it for time, and I'll throw all those together. So it's like a hodgepodge of just, here's pre-show, post-show, mid-show things that are talked about. We've also been doing Tales from the Guides. So like Sam said, that's kind of what we do, are what campaigns and characters have we done. I think we had like what was our first character? What was our last character? Is like, what was the best role-playing moment you had?
Yep.
So stuff like that. So, obviously we don't really talk much about lore stuff. We like to keep that content, on the main feed. Like, we don't want to paywall specific lore dumps.
So it's mostly if you just want to hear us talk about random things that we have done in role play.
Yeah. We also have a Discord. We have some good patrons there talking, and I'm usually chatting here and there. So good group of people. So if you want to support us, you have the $2, $5, and $10 tier. Feel free to go check that out. If you want to reach out to us, hit us up on at our email, tabletoptravelguidepodcast@gmail.com. Check out our Instagram, which I am notoriously terrible at updating, but it's fine. At Tabletop Travel Guide. Yeah. But until next time, safe travels.